Hello, everyone. I think everyone's joining into the room. I'm updating all of the settings just to make sure everyone can chat and now they can. If you're in here and you want to type in a quick hello in chat just to let me know who's in the room, sometimes it helps. Today, what we're going to talk about is lead generation. And we're specifically going to talk about why it's important for law firms to always be generating leads, what that looks like, and ultimately, like where you can generate leads. And I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding about this topic of lead generation because there's a lot of ways that law firms or any business can generate leads passively, for example, through Google search, organic search, or SEO. A lot of times, the concept behind SEO is that we publish content and optimize our site so it is on the first page of Google, and therefore leads can find us, discover us, come in our funnel that way. But for me, that is not lead generation as I would typically describe it. And in fact, for me, lead generation is something more specific and actually more akin to what I learned at Great Legal Marketing and through the teachings of Dan Kennedy and famous marketers like that. It's direct response marketing, which still to this day, everyone gets excited about direct response marketing because it's trackable. Usually it's built to help you find the ROI of the ad campaign, but for personal injury and a lot of law firms, difficult to get a true ROI calculation on a reasonable timeline. We'll talk about that too, maybe. It's not on my list, but we're talking about lead generation and ROI goes hand in hand. So we'll definitely get to it. And we'll also, well, before I get totally off track, let me get back to my outline that I have here, which I definitely need. So when I talk to law firms, and a law firm comes to me and says, "Hi, Tiffany, you're a fractional CMO. What can you do for our firm?" My primary goal is to help set up the systems and the practices for them to succeed long term. Because in the current legal marketing landscape, there are a ton of vendors, and it seems like there are more and more each day. My inbox is filled with AI agents effectively who are negotiating marketing contracts with myself and the business owner. And sometimes it takes us a while to find out that they're AI. And maybe if we have a little bit of time later, I'll tell everyone that story. But we're seeing all these new vendors crop up, and when you ask them what they do, the scope is usually pretty narrow. We'll make you some videos, we'll make you some images, we'll do this, but that's vendors really exist to serve like a niche function within our marketing. They do SEO, they do PPC, they do something with social media, and yeah, that will include video content or something to that effect. But for me, like what a CMO does, or a marketing director, or fractional CMO, or wherever you sit at your law firm, we're focused on the long-term outcomes. The solutions that vendors provide us are incredibly useful and help take a lot of tasks off our plate, particularly if you're a solo marketer or one of a really small team. But they can't really supplement what you can provide, which is this long-term forward-thinking picture. I should have muted Alexa into what your law firm is doing. And the best marketers I see really try to set their law firms up for that future success. I also see a lot of marketers who the whole system is dependent on them. And when they leave, it just kind of falls apart. And it's a tough situation to be in. But for me, like if we're going to be ethically marketing for our businesses, we're setting them up for long-term success. And the way I see that all of us can do that is by making sure the law firm is always doing three things. I was going to say one of three things, but you should be doing these three things. Authority building, which is effectively raising, it's brand marketing. I call it authority building because it's easier to stomach, and brand marketing has a bad reputation. But it's improving on the EEAT and overall presence of your brand. And a lot of times that includes digital PR. It includes some, not quite sure how you call it, but optimization of the attorney's personal profiles. And maybe we'll talk about this in another meeting once the results have fully materialized. But very recently, I helped one of my clients work towards capturing a Google Knowledge Panel, which actually Lindy Bourgeois informed me of her strategy to do that for Lloyd. And so we implemented it for Jason, and maybe share it with you guys in another meeting. But doing things like that helps increase the visibility of the brand overall and the recognition, the repetition. It also includes a bunch of other things like nurturing your client list and nurturing your marketing list, and many different things. It's very vague, unfortunately, but you should always be working towards enhancing that brand at some level, whatever level you're at, just trying to take the next step at being a bigger brand in the space. Second thing is referral marketing, which doesn't need as much explanation as brand marketing or authority building. We're nurturing referral sources so we can get more referrals for the law firm. Pretty straightforward, particularly if you've been in the legal marketing space for a while, you're familiar a little bit with referral marketing. And then the third is the topic of the call today, which is lead generation. And lead generation is, as I already said, extremely misunderstood. And a lot of law firms feel like they're doing lead generation when really they're not, i.e. the SEO stuff. So it's confused a lot with funnels. And funnels have a really bad rap, or at least I think they currently have a bad rap, because they don't really fit the current model of this omnipresent multi-channel attribution where we have dark social and dark SEO and then ChatGPT. So it doesn't, funnels don't fit that traditional model where you funnel people into one end and out comes clients on the other. But that's the ideal. And that's what we are doing with lead generation. We are creating natural paths for potential clients to find and contact us. And there's some more criteria that it needs to meet for at least me to consider it true lead generation, right? And also, lead generation has a bad rap because most lead generation happens on digital marketing channels. And that's not to say that's the only type of lead generation you can do. Whenever people hear lead generation, I feel like most of them think Facebook ads, Google PPC, local service ads. All of those we'll talk about at some level in this call because those are all lead generation. But lead generation doesn't fall into those buckets only. It's just simply creating paths where enough people see our ad that they are funneled into learning about our business and learning more about our service. And it can happen anywhere. So before we get into the more specifics of lead generation, before we start talking more about this broad topic, there's so much we can go into. Kelly asked in the last meeting if we could go over some of the Zaps that I've created, some of the newer ones. And we'll actually talk about a few of those in the meeting because it's a part of lead generation. But I did want to share one with you that I recently updated and am starting to see some really good results. And it's something you can rebuild, pretty sure using Claude skills, or I'm using Zapier and ChatGPT. Depending on what tools you have, there are a number of ways you can build